Welcome to the Public Eye. I'm Ronald Thwaites. Later, I hope to be joined by the Honorable Colonel Charles Sr. Today is June 1st, and yesterday in the United States, they issued a Level 3 travel advisory for Jamaica, expressing concern about crime in this country. And you hear this? Advising visitors to reconsider traveling to Jamaica. Oy, oy. The advisory explained that persons who decide to visit Jamaica should avoid the parishes of Clarendon, Hanover, Kingston, and St. Andrew, St. Anne, St. Catherine, Westmoreland, and St. James, specifically Montego Bay and other areas. Then tell me something, no. In most of the whole of the country, I believe this is an overkill, an overreach. Yes? We have a serious crime problem, there's no doubt. But in my view, it does not warrant the kind of scary reaction that has taken place. Now, I realize that I'm putting a very anecdotal and personal view against the intelligence of the United States, but I believe that this is a complete overreach. Yes, is there one for parts of the Bronx and Brooklyn and Harlem too, or parts of Miami or any big city in the United States? According to the advisory, I'm reading again, the U.S. government personnel in Jamaica are prohibited from traveling to certain areas in the parishes listed. Oh. And as if one maca is all we had to juke us, Jamaica is now added to the Center for Disease Control, their list of high-risk countries for COVID-19. The listing puts the country at level 3, the highest level of the CDC category, moving up from level 2. Well, that one I don't have any problem with because we do that to ourselves. Yes? People take selfishness, foolishness, gossip, and sheer mindlessness and refuse to get vaccinated. And therefore, with only 25% of the available public being vaccinated, is we bring on ourselves this thing with the CDC, and it's going to hurt us because it's going to affect people with any vulnerability who would like to come here as tourists. Yeah? And so, that is something we can do about it. The other one I think is unfair, bad as the crime is, but this one I think is unfortunately justified. Sure. Anyway, as usual, on the Public Eye, every Wednesday, we bring these and other pertinent issues straight to you. No slander, no gossip, just facts and reasonable analysis as we continue to explore some of the societal problems. We have an open mind, and always we're seeking to find solutions. We're done with the tribalist politics, We're no business with that. That can't take us anywhere. So don't want to come with your ism and schism. Come with your concerns and come with your plans for how we can do better as a people. We want hearts of flesh, not hearts of stone, as the scripture tells us. Okay? Thank you for being part of the Bridge Nation. You've tuned into the Bridge 99.13579 on the FM dial. And remember, you can also watch our live stream at www.thebridge99fm.com, wherever you are. And listen out, there are more connections, Instagram, it's at the Bridge 99FM. And there's a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to, Bridge 99FM. And we're going bossy now, You can download the Bridge 99FM app on the Google Play Store and the Apple Stores, I tell you. All right. Now, on the program today, president of, I love this, I love his company's name, Above and Beyond, psychologist and management consultant, Dr. Leachim Semaj joins us. I particularly asked for his visitation because the Inter-American Development Bank, has published a study that says that we in the Caribbean and Latin America have the lowest level of trust anywhere in the world. Can you imagine? Yeah. So we need to ask why. We need to ask what are the consequences. And most important, we need to ask how we're going to reverse this. Because if you don't have trust, you can't have social cohesion. Yes? You can't have prosperous economies. You can't have integral families. You can't even have a decent love affair. True? You have to have trust. And that's low. And then after the first hour, we'll have our usual New York connection with Irwine Clare, live from the studios of our sister station at Irie Jam Radio in New York City. Please join the Bridge Nation conversation. You can call our phone line at 876-676-4996. We'd love to hear from you. And those in the tri-state area of the United States can join us by calling 1-888-546-8742. Give you that again, 1-888-546-8742. Yeah, well, let me just give you a few thoughts on my mind. I was distressed this week when I hear that we have to import molasses into this country in order to make rum. Oh, Lord. We know the problems with the sugar industry, but surely we can grow enough cane and produce enough sugar for our domestic needs. We don't have to import, one. And two, we can produce enough molasses for our rums. On what basis are you calling it Jamaica rum? I have some friends and contacts who are now visiting in the Asian countries of Thailand and the Philippines, and they say that Appleton rum is everywhere now. It's a preferred drink. So, can we talk it quietly? But if foreign molasses has to be brought in to be distilled here into the rum, surely we have a part, but it's not Jamaican rum in the full sense that it ought to be, that people expect it to be. How that? Yes? So where's the planning? Where's the reservation of enough cane lands that can grow, say, 80 tons to the hectare? Right, that's a kind of threshold of profitability. But embarrass, we soon have to import white sand, eh? No, man, we have to do better than that. So a call to all of us, yes, and particularly those in the agricultural sector. We need to produce enough molasses to take shame out of our eye. Okay? Yeah. Just before we bring in Dr. Semaj, the Prime Minister says that Mandela Park is not sufficient to honor his icon, his model, the late Nelson Mandela. You know, maybe you're right, Mr. Holness, but let's keep Mandela Park nice, whether it's we need another park like that. The trouble with Mandela Park is not that it's small, is that it's not kept up properly, like so many other places. Look at Heroes Park now, is pure parking lot and cemetery and dust bowl. Cha. And if you're going to have a bigger public space dedicated to Nelson Mandela, Mr. Holness, what about the King's House land, sir? Yes? It's pure bush is there, you know. So in this 60th year of our independence, 70th year of the reign of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth of Jamaica, what about using some of that, man, to build up the livity of the public? How about that, sir? Yeah, so I have a suggestion there. I'm very concerned, aren't you, about truancy. The Minister of Education says that it's about 27,000 children who they haven't been able to locate at all in the back-to-school move. Well, you know, I'm interested to hear that figure. But what I know is that the same minister, Mrs. Williams, enough respect to her, she told us that the attendance at school is only 75%, up to pre-COVID levels. Now, there are about 600,000 children in school. So you take 75% of that on any one day. And how many are absent? Yes, 150,000. And for every day you miss in school is a serious problem. And it's not a question of locking up the parents. That's that's not the way to go. The way to go is to appoint truancy officers and social workers. And if the children need bus fare or if they need lunch money, that they must get. But they must come to school. If they don't come to school, then the Americans are going to have to declare more and more that we are in a wrong category, see? So please, can we come to grips, and people listening to us in the diaspora, anything you can do to get the picnic in your family or your circle to come to school every day, that must help. Yeah, it's 11:15. Let's take the break. When we come back, Dr. Leachim Semaj talks about trust, talks about that sensitive, beautiful, indispensable relationship between individuals and between persons and institutions, between all of us and the state. This is the Public Eye on the Bridge, 99 FM. Dr. Leachim Semaj, renowned psychologist, public intellectual on the Public Eye on the Bridge. Yes, frequent guest, man who sets us straight on and offers clarity on a number of matters to do with with life in Jamaica. Looking forward to hit the word with him. Yeah, I have a question for Irwine Clare in the next segment of the program. You know, from what I'm looking at the CNN tracker, is the U.S. going to make Putin take over Ukraine? Is that what they're going to do? Is that the extent? No, the extent of the power of the free world? That you can just decide and set that you are going to occupy a territory and we give you 2 guns.
Hello.
Leachim, are you there?
Oh, yes, I am.
Hi, man. Thanks and good morning. Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Public Eye.
Pleasure's always mine.
Couldn't think of a better person to ask for comment. On the matter, the Inter-American Development Bank, which is a reputable source, has published an extensive study on trust, and the essence of it, worrying, is that the Caribbean and Latin America has the lowest level of trust anywhere in the world, and they describe trust as the most pressing and yet least discussed problem confronting our region. What are you surprised, Dr. Semaj? What do you say?
I absolutely am not surprised, my brother. We've been saying this for quite some time.
What is the root of our mistrust in each other? And as the report does, it segments it: interpersonal distrust and individual distrust in institutions, and particularly the state.
Well, look, trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair.
Say that again for me. Trust
takes years to build. It does not happen overnight.
Yeah.
But it takes seconds to break, and forever to repair.
Oy.
So that if we keep breaking it and breaking it and breaking it, we can even summarize a formula. Trust is equal to consistency over time. Each time you think you have seen the worst, it gets worse. You know, you're a churchman, Ronnie. And sometimes, you know, you use a text as the foundation for the lesson.
Yeah.
I'm using as by text today a very simple quote from Maria Cuomo. Remember Maria Cuomo?
Yes, he was mayor of governor of New York.
Governor of New York. A classic statement from him. It says that as politicians, you tend to campaign in poetry, but you have to govern in prose.
Oh, Lord.
No, Ronnie, you're one of my favorite politicians because I know you from before you went into politics, and I know your integrity, independent of how we identify politicians in Jamaica as such. But the poetry in Jamaica has been beautiful. But when you compare the poetry to the reality of the prose, it's like night and day.
Yes.
And it keeps happening again and again and again and again. No, the wonderful thing about it, I'm using the word wonderful loosely. You can win elections without trust. All you need is numeric majority in a constituency, all right? And both major political parties know how to win elections. But trust is one person at a time. Now, because you have won the election, don't mean you have won the trust. And this has been consistently, you mentioned the issue of the coronavirus issue.
Yeah.
From day one, I offered my assistance because we have a behavioral problem. But the political director wanted no input from anyone else. But all study after study shows that the political directorates are the least trusted entities to tell the people anything.
Yeah.
Now, the people now, the whole issue, vaccination is something you decide person by person by person, not by constituency. So that because you won the election, you could confuse yourself to think that, well, because they trust us, why they vote for us. You won the election because you know how to win elections. You know all you need to do. All right, we know we have so many votes in this constituency. We know these going to vote 120% for us. We know that. So all we need, you can win the election with 27% of the electorate voting. One of the dilemmas we face, why we will never have any kind of referendum allows us to move away from the monarchy. Because why? We need a 60% vote. No party has ever had 60% of the vote. And the only way you could do that is if both parties came together and presented one platform to the people. That's not going to happen. Jamaican people trust politicians the least of all the various institutions. And what are the things that make up trust? Loyal, reliability, fairness, competence, authenticity, transparency, integrity, truthfulness.
The IDB says that they are defining trust as the belief that another person, the person in whom you trust is to be reposed, will not act opportunistically. That's not a full definition. In fact, it's a rather basal one. What do you think?
No, but it summarizes all the components, because it opportunistically clearly means that you're not accountable, you're not fair, you're not with integrity, you're not being transparent. And we have example after example. Trust is one person at a time. Remember when I started? Yes. Years to build, seconds to break, forever to repair.
Yeah.
How have we gone about repairing the trust? After every scandal, what have we done to repair the trust?
Very little. Break it down for me now, given that opening, because it's not only a question of the political system not engendering trust, but of perhaps of greater significance is the lack of trust between individuals, Leachim. I'm thinking particularly of the trust that has to repose between intimate partners, particularly those who become parents.
Absolutely. I mean, look, Ronnie, you couldn't have chosen a more dangerous topic, because at every level of our society, our intimate partners, I have a premise, Ronnie, that says that at least 70% of our children, the phrase that announces their presence is a woman saying to a man, "I miss the period, And the man saying, "Where tell me that for?"
God.
And the problem starts there. Because prior to then, there was no a priori discussion of him and her becoming parents and building a family. Circumstances are just altered cases immediately.
Yes.
And you're working from that, because if there was trust to begin with, you put your cards face up, you lay your cards on the table. What are you in this for? Why am I with you? Why do I want to be with you? And again, trust precedes honesty. The data is showing that even in Jamaica, at various levels, whether it's a contested situation or just a random, the number of children in Jamaica where the paternity is questionable. I must use the word questionable to be decent, is one of the highest in the world. So that's one of the ultimate acts of distrust, whereby you are saying that Ronald Thwaites is the father of my child. knowing full well that you're really raffled and then you're just calling Ronald Thwaites' name.
But like we need a short break for the time signal. But this is the key to the whole thing, because if you don't have trust between persons at the most sensitive levels of their lives, and if you don't therefore have that cascading and blossoming into trust in a family relationship, in a business relationship, in a statal relationship, citizen relationship, how do you possibly build a coherent society? And then the question is, why? What are the antecedents of our mistrust? And what are the therapies that could make a difference? Dr. Leachim Semaj on the public eye on the bridge soon come. Talking issues of trust on the public eye with Dr. Leachim Semaj, psychologist and public intellectual. So Leachim, we're building up a society on sand then, on weak foundations?
Yes, on sand. We look, there's a thin veneer of civility that we like to talk about. And again, look at the opening remarks of your program in terms of the U.S. observations and definition of Jamaican society, both in terms of crime and violence, and also in terms of the COVID-related activities. Yeah. And look, Jamaica is a wholly more than that, but those elements. Look, there's a saying that conceived in sin and shaped in iniquity. If you go back to slavery, which all of what it did to us, and we learned coping mechanisms from that. Then colonization. Now, the last 60 years we've been trying to shape a society, but I don't think that we have seriously tackled even just what we're talking about today, trust.
Yes.
Look, if any political party that commits themselves to trust will win all the next elections, because remember, trust is one person by person, one at a time. But no, you must agree with me that to win an election, you don't need trust. All you need is to win enough constituencies. And both parties know exactly how to manipulate the system to get that done. So there's very little incentive at the political level to engender trust.
Except that in defense of us politicians, Leachim, you whatever the methodology, which is correct as you speak, most people go in there with the hope of really doing something, achieving something on behalf of the community.
And then reality kicks in.
Just allow me a thought on a memory on that. When I went into politics in 1996, I went to see the late Ralph Eugene Brown, who had represented the Central Kingston constituency for many years. And I asked him why he didn't run again, why he gave up when he did. And he was very clear. He said, because I did not think that I could do anything for the residents. I felt that I had so let them down. And one of the reasons why I retired in 2020 was because I had come to the conclusion that while it was a worthwhile effort, you simply could not achieve within the existing system, mistrust included, yes? You could not achieve within the system that which was a minimum justification for your being there. I'm very sad about that, Leachim.
But Ronnie, I said, I know you, Ronnie, long before you entered politics. And I've interacted with you at various levels. So I know how it must pain your heart. But guess what? When you're part of a system that has those antecedents and those components, look, you remember the length of time that Mr. Siaga was in power. It stymied the Jamaican Labour Party's possibility of success. And that was the PNP's secret weapon. The longer Siaga stayed there, the longer the JLP would have been in the wilderness. Because of the lack of trust. So that no matter how you can manipulate the system, and that is the reality. So that, again, we talked about it at a domestic level in terms of man and woman, the absence of trust that exists. At the workplace, the lack of trust between management and workers.
Yeah.
You know, there's a saying in Jamaica that HR represent management, whereas union represent workers.
Oh.
But I've told managing directors and CEOs, but hold on. If the HR does their job properly, there's almost no room or need for a union. Because HR is not just to represent one side of the coin. HR is to make sure the human resources are appropriately selected and appropriately rewarded.
Yeah.
I've seen a situation when I was on radio. I mean, I did a program running where I had as my guest the person from Norman Manley Law School who teaches contract law.
Oh.
Why I did that? Because we are now at a situation in Jamaica where contracts, in my experience, are written totally one-sided. If you, in a contractual relationship with somebody, you miss one comma, you could be in trouble.
Yeah.
Lawyers don't attempt to write contracts to make sure, all right, this thing is balanced and everybody is fair. My company now, the simplest thing we do, we now have to have our own internal legal officer. There's a particular government entity we just did something for. We just started a project. And the contract went back and forth between the lawyers 4 times.
Uh-oh.
Because that's where we come to.
Yeah.
Nobody starts by writing a contract with trust. So when we got the first draft of the contract, our legal officer had to go through and just take out this clause and take out that and take out that and take out that. And they will find, what could we both agree to? That's where Jamaica is now reached.
So you glance and say that the antecedents of oppression are the origins, the parents of mistrust. We've gone through an era where we identified, we thought correctly, the class struggle in Jamaica. No one could deny the clarity of the analysis, but doing it that way, Leachim Semaj, has deepened the fissure, the gap, the gully between of trust. It's very difficult to trust a person who has been identified as your oppressor or as somebody who is your predator.
Absolutely. But you need to go beyond that.
Yes.
Having identified and articulated, that's really not enough.
Yeah.
It was said that Jamaica went through a rough period between the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
And equivalent to South Africa went through a very rough period during apartheid, but they had a truth and reconciliation period.
Right.
Whereby admissions were made. Who has admitted to the wrongs in recent historical memory? Who has admitted to what was done, the nexus between criminality, violence, and politics? Who has admitted to it?
Yeah. Well, all
the data, all the evidence is still there. The memories, people are still alive who remember what happened, so that we have papered it over, so the trust was never repaired. The breach was never repaired. And every day there are instances. I mean, all right, let me just be brave and just say, you know, one of the things that troubled me a lot, of recent memory, do you recall a situation whereby within our constitutions, the way that senators are supposed to be chosen?
Yes.
And there was a situation where senators were asked to sign
undated resignations.
Resignation.
Yeah. And give them to the person who appointed them.
No, Ronnie, the person who made that request, that was wrong. But the senators who agreed to do it,
yeah.
If I was to be appointed as senator, and you came to me, Ronnie, and said, listen, Dr. Semaj, before I appoint you, I want you to sign a resignation letter, but don't date it. I will tell you what to do with the piece of paper.
Indeed, and you should.
So that's the kind of stuff we talk about recent memory.
Yeah.
look, because there's a particular ruling party in power now, you could say we're picking on them, but no, that one just came to mind as a basic public event.
Well, so the question arises then, with this sort of fatal flaw in our personal and in our social order, how do we begin to rebuild trust, Dr. Semaj? Because if we don't, our corner dark,
Because, well, we have to, the elements that make up trust, again, there are 4 elements of trust. Able, are you able to do what you say you're going to do? Believable, do people believe you that you can get the job done? Huh?
Yes.
Are you dependable? Can you do it, and will you do it consistently? Now, you do this by demonstrating it. You do this by demonstrating it. So each time you do something, you say you're going to do something, and you end up not doing it. And worse yet, you don't give an example. But look, if it's just about winning power, we know how to do that. And guess what? The people who are most closely tied to the political process, they do not hold leaders accountable. As I say, they drink the Kool-Aid. So whatever my leader do, yeah man, I'm right, man. Must be a good reason why I'm doing it. Must be a good reason why I'm doing it. And even if you, as a part of a process running, you have no basis on which to query it. Your only option is to work with the program or resign or step aside.
Well,
so that we really need, I've known a lot of people who have had political ambitions, and the closer they got to the process, or even they got in, they stepped out immediately because they realized, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. So we really have to start with, and it's almost impossible to change it from outside. We call it revolution. Can we get the persons who are in the system to accept that Jamaica deserves better than this?
Well, every moment is an opportune moment, but this one is peculiarly so. We are in a situation now where, despite best efforts, I'm sure, by many people who exercise power or who hold political responsibility, who have economic wherewithal, our chances of growth, let alone equitable growth, are severely compromised by external circumstances as well as internal mistrust and divisions. If we don't do it now, it will elude us for much longer than it would if we were to engage on the reference. Can there be pressure towards some kind of juncture? You made the point about the monarchy. On Sunday coming, I will be attending a church service to celebrate Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth's 70th anniversary. 70th. Yes, and I'm anxious to be courteous to the lady, but the removal of the monarchy for Jamaica, to me, is an extremely important issue. But I like you, do not see any prospect of the two parties to get together. And if they were even to do so and secure the 60% of the people support, then that would only lead me to ask, why don't we keep going together on some of the vital issues, and particularly the issue of restoring trust in public institutions and private relations.
Leachim? I am with you 100%, Ronnie. If we were to be able to do that just for the case of removing the monarchy, we'd have to just continue the process. Yeah. Because it will show that we are ready to work together for the collective good of the country. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I am by nature an optimistic person, but in this case, I'm really not, Ronnie. I'm a realistic person in this case, because there are significant minority members of the Jamaican society who benefit from the current situation. And they are not about to change it. I remember some years ago, I was at a NGO, what do you call these people? It's non-political discussion about the issues of campaign contribution. Yeah. And I said, but folks, you can't be blaming the political parties about not wanting to disclose campaign contribution. You very folks in this room are the ones that are making the campaign contributions. You represent the big companies.
Yeah.
If you said, I will publicly disclose
what I have done,
yeah, that each election I will give, say, $50 million to one and 45 to the other.
Yeah.
I edge my bet. So whichever one wins, they owe me a favor. If you decide that I am going to make this public so that the parties don't have to say a thing, the individuals who control the financial levers of the Jamaican society, they presently benefit from the current situation. They aren't about to want to change it.
Well, you know, I agree. Sadly, but there's another imperative. Leachim, I came across some close relatives, young people, highly qualified people, conscious, love Jamaica, and the discussion was, should they stay here? They have options, and the two of them were quite clear. If you guys, meaning people of my background, people in the political arena, if you guys can't get it together so that we can really look forward to a process where we see liberty, where we see hope for the future, why should we stay?
Good question. And if you notice that the data shows that approximately 50% of the persons who graduate from our tertiary institutions, their primary objective is to migrate.
Yeah.
So that those who the country invests the most in terms of the educational process,
sure,
are the ones most likely and desirous of a better life. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Migrating.
Yes.
Because we're not it's as if we don't know what clock a strike.
What can we do in the process of socialization? What can we do in the schools through the very powerful media opportunities that we have to engender trust, Dr. Semaj?
But you see, do we teach something that we don't believe in? That's one of the problems.
Yeah.
How about this example here? We can show how that relationship between school and media can work. Back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, Jamaicans have this saying that, boy, the old-time festival songs were the best one.
Yeah.
I don't think so. They're just as silly as the ones now. But guess what? Every one of us know all the old-time festival songs. Why? Because one radio station had a national commitment to national development.
Yeah.
And they had to play all the songs every day.
Yeah.
I don't think any radio station, we have over 30 radio stations now in Jamaica with none committed to national development. There's no individual station that, look, your mandate is national development. So nobody is committed to national development. People are committed to their own personal development and what's in it for me? WIIFM, that's the #1 station. What's in it for me? So that, how was the school? Look, the Patterson report on the educational system was not new. The majority of children come out of the end of high school without being able to matriculate. The number of children who can't even pass 2 subjects. 60% of our children cannot pass 5 subjects, including maths and English. So the educational system, we know all the data says that it is not working. But are we about to fix it? The pushback we get from the educators themselves when we want to get accountability, the pushback we get from the government in terms of funding, why don't we put more effort into pre-primary and primary, get the foundations right, and we take it from there.
And the key
you mentioned the figures at the beginning of the program about the number of students who have not really returned to educational system. we won't pay the price for that for years to come.
My God, Leachim, thank you for saying that, because I'm just begging people, anybody listening to The Bridge, anybody listening to Public Eye, can you just accept that? It's not 27,000. They may be the ones who you don't have any contact with at all, but who name you know, who may come in and register 1 day or 2 days. Every day in school, we are losing over 100,000 children. You can't proceed. You can't progress on that, sir.
You know, Ronnie, one of the things that we tried to do, and we did so very poorly during the pandemic, was to continue online education. One thing people don't realize, the more critical element of the educational process is socialization.
Yes, sure.
That was paused for 2 years.
Yes.
And that was replaced by cable television and the streets. Do you realize the upsurge of gangs? The upsurge of gangs. Sure. How many more young people now have committed their allegiance to gangs?
Yeah.
Because when I was in primary school, the socializing agent of being a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
When I was in secondary school, the socializing agent of being a cadet. All of those pro-social activities is what helped to shape us.
Listen.
I know one thing that you were concerned about was the two-shift system.
Yes.
Because with a two-shift system, the socialization component got significantly reduced.
Of course.
So, Ronnie, we know the questions, we know the problems, but is there a will? There are sufficient numbers of persons who benefit from the present situation.
Well,
the fact that you're talking about it, this is a wonderful thing. You know, there's a concern. Why are we just talking to the choir? Listen, it's an important thing to talk to the choir, because guess what? We strengthen other people on an individual level to do something.
Yes.
So someone listening to our program today, they may be in a position to say, but you know, I have been one of those who have been consistently contributing to both political parties, but without asking the questions about where is the society going. Maybe the next cycle around, I will ask some questions.
And they should. And as you know, our focus on this station particularly is on people in the diaspora, Jamaicans in the diaspora, who are sending a whole heap of money, goods, expectations, hopes, who are investing trust in families, institutions, etc. And in a sense, well, what I want to do is strengthen them to both to mentor and to make demands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're in a position, and many more of them are doing so. But do you realize that, Ronnie, as a person who lives back and forth, and a Jamaican living outside of Jamaica sometimes is more Jamaican than one inside.
Of course.
Because it is what keeps him safe. It is what keeps him sound.
Yes.
And the nation, you want the Jamaicans overseas now to invest financially and otherwise. But you're going to have to be accountable to them.
Well,
so just by you asking this question, where the trust deficit, I'll say the last thing, as I said before, elections are won by winning a numeric majority in a constituency, but trust is won one person at a time. Any party who commits themselves to winning trust will win all the next elections for the next 100 years.
And that is, and therefore, why can't that be an objective, a target for both political parties? And having regard to the tremendous benefit, the wonderful situation that we could have if you were able to really incarnate, enflesh that trust and show the trust to each other. Man, what a difference that could make, man.
The potential for Jamaica.
Endless.
I can taste it.
Yes. Leachim Semaj, as usual, rich conversation. Thank you so much for today. Grateful always for your company.
My pleasure.
Dr. Leachim Semaj, public intellectual, psychologist, and management consultant. Above and Beyond is the name of his company. I love that. And you hear the trenchancy and the zeal and the passion of his remarks. Trust. We can't continue to be rated lowest in the world for our trust in ourselves, in our institutions, and in relation to the state. When that happens, coercion, selfishness, individualism takes over. Yes, what's it in for myself? What's in it for myself? Remember he said? No, we can't do it that way. This is a critical area. The Inter-American Development Bank said this is the least discussed important element of our development, where we're going to stop that on this program, on this station, I hope. We're going to talk about trust. We're going to try and build trust. What did Leachim say again? Takes years to build up, seconds to crash, and an eternity to rebuild. Time for the break. This is the Public Eye on the Bridge 99 FM. This is the Public Eye and the Open Mind. It's a Bridge 99 FM. In just a while, we'll be linking up with Irwine Clare and the folks at Irie Jam in the tri-state area of the United States. Very important interview with Leachim Semaj early on the day. This is the kind of in-depth inquiry into deep issues that the Bridge and the Public Eye are committed to. So, we face this. Number of questions for our friends in the United States. We have to ask them. We are in the slipstream of what takes place in that country, in the armpit of the Americas as we live. And therefore, we have to make sure that this connection is far more than just socializing, far more than just the passing of superficial information, but really goes to the heart of what it is to be human, what it is to be Jamaican in both of these countries. Yeah, in Jamaica, we just have to face our reality. The prices of wheat. Wheat is the basis of flour, and you know how Jamaicans love flour. Yes, we can't live without dumpling. 63% increase in the price of wheat worldwide, and therefore we are facing that now. I don't think it lick us quite so much yet, but it is a serious problem that we are facing. I heard Tony Rebel earlier on talking about the benefits and the happiness of having rose breadfruit in U.S. markets. Look here now, is 1 and 2. You tell me we should have groves of breadfruit trees growing. Yes. The McLaughlins with Trees That Feed Foundation have been advising us, and other countries have taken it up more than we could. We cannot afford this. I've heard commentators on other stations emphasizing the importance of ramping up food production. I've heard plenty of us certainly Pernell and myself pushing this, but it is now of urgency. People cannot afford to buy what they were buying last week and the week before. You can pretty it up, you can tell people, oh, it'll soon get back to normal. It won't. Yes, it's a serious issue. Well, we contemplate on that and nurse our hungry belly. Yes, let's join Irwine Clare at Irie Jam in New York. Irwine, how are you?
Gentlemen, good day.
We're fine. Pernell is missing in action today.
On the day when we herald in Caribbean-American Heritage Month? I don't understand this.
Well, I don't either, but we look forward whenever he can join us.
Indeed. Welcome, Ronnie.
Caribbean Heritage Month?
Caribbean-American Heritage Month.
Okay, what's the significance of that?
Well, we've been celebrating it since 2006. The United States president's successors have proclaimed it such. Ethnic groups that come to these United States and have contributed to the fabric and the economic and social and other lifestyle in this country have found ways to ensure that their presence is acknowledged and their contributions. And Caribbean people, as you know, have been fundamental in this country. We represent the third friendly border to these United States and have been contributing immensely over the years. And so several years before 2006, many of our nationals would have advocated and lobbied for this type of designation. It has since been bestowed on us since 2006.
Very good. And a sense of pride then.
It is. And opportunities, Yes. And of course, we still have many unfulfilled mandates which we need to pursue. But we have made gains as well. And we have to say kudos to those who with the foresight. And a big shout out goes to Dr. Claire Nelson. She was very instrumental in this process, along with the Una Clarks of the world and others who would have played significant role as well as the Roy Hastick and many in the Caribbean community.
I don't know the names of many of those people. I think that it's probably true of most of our people here. And it's important that we call the names, we celebrate them, and we recognize their Jamaican-ness, their Caribbean identity,
Yes,
in ways that we haven't done up to now, Irwine.
Indeed, Roy Hassick, for several years, the founder of Caribbean-American Chamber of Commerce, he left us several years ago, a couple of years ago. Very instrumental, was a very powerful voice in the community as it relates to the economic and building bridges, as it relates to, how we can find ways to ensure that economically speaking, the Caribbean is part of the whole dynamic. And of course, Una Clark, one of those, the firebrand of her.
Yes, indeed. I've welcomed her in these studios on several occasions.
Indeed. And several others, notables within our communities. And so, it's a collective. Have we, achieved all the things that we set out to? No, we haven't. Are we disappointed? Yes, we are. Are we opportunistic and optimistic? Yes, we are. And so we continue to strive. And as we speak to our first guest today, you'll get a better perspective, because she has been in the trenches and have, come up with successes on our behalf. And so these are the things that we'll be promoting this month, Ronnie. Caribbean nationals who have played significant role in these United States. And this by chance, let's not forget also too the contribution of Caribbean nationals in the agricultural aspect of this country. And as you know, food is a significant weapon in life because it keeps us alive as well. And we have had many from the Caribbean community who have come up and played roles there, as well as in the world of academia, as well as in health.
Now that we don't know, we hear of the Caribbean-based originated professors, but in terms of, for example, the Caribbean contribution to agricultural production, development, research, we don't know. Well, I guess we do. We hear of the Texas A&M people where Caribbeans have gone and done well, but I think there's much more. There's a narrative that certainly we want to use this interaction with you on subsequent occasions to lift up.
And if you might recall, when we spoke with the folks from Buffalo a couple of weeks ago,
right,
they mentioned about how Jamaicans and Caribbean nationals that have gone to Buffalo. From an agricultural perspective, we have seen towns upstate New York, Poughkeepsie, where
the
Jamaicans and and in fact, at one point up in Poughkeepsie, Jamaica had the longest serving council representative there in Poughkeepsie, and indeed Poughkeepsie at one point was, if not the first international style cricket field, was right up there in Poughkeepsie. Because why? Because the Caribbean nationals would have gone up there, and cricket was their mainstay.
That's good.
Yes, so these are some of the nuggets that we have within our communities that we need to celebrate, and frequently we overlook them because of the negatives that have so overwhelmed us as a people.
Will you introduce us to Mrs. Persaud then?
Without a doubt. Our guest today is Caribbean-born immigrant who has risen from as an undocumented immigrant to a U.S. citizen, journalist, entrepreneur, advocate, one of the most sought-after Caribbean persons within our community. She's the founder of ICN LLC, which owns 4 brands: Invest Caribbean, the global private sector investment agency of the Caribbean that offers funding, business subscriptions, and consulting services under one roof. Carib PR Wire, the only press release wire of the Caribbean and partner of Season, PR, Newswire, News America's Now News Network, the Black Immigrant Daily News, and Heartbeat Communications, the award-winning digital ad and PR solutions agency offering subscription marketing services without the hassles of a huge retainer. And that's always good to hear. She's also a columnist and advocate for the Caribbean American community in the U.S. and the Caribbean. Her extensive knowledge about the Caribbean and its diaspora has seen her appearing and quoted in many major multimedia outlets, including CNN, the AP, Reuters, the New York Times, the International Business Times, the Miami Herald, New York Daily News, One Caribbean Television, among numerous Caribbean and Black media. And yes, she's also part of the Irie Jam team here from time to time. Her passion led her to finding Carib ID running. This is very important. We're going to be talking about this today. Carib ID in 2008, which battled for a way for Caribbean nationals to accurately self-identify on U.S. census forms. We're going to find out today why that is so important. In 2020, that advocacy was manifested on the 2020 forms. And for the first time in the census history, allowed Caribbean nationals to identify their nationality and ancestry. And we're going to know why that is so important. We welcome Miss Felicia Persaud. Good evening, Felicia.
A very happy National Caribbean Heritage Month to you, my friend, and to all the listeners, especially those in Jamaica and the Caribbean diaspora. It's an absolute pleasure to be joining you guys today.
Without a doubt. You know, Ronnie, when she says that, I can see the glee on her face because she has toiled hard. And this is a month when we can really sit back, reflect on the things that we have achieved and the opportunities that are still ahead of us.
Well, we're sharing in that today too. Thank you so much for joining us in Jamaica. This is the one Caribbean that we're trying to build. Felicia Persaud, we're happy to honor you today and to hear from you how we can contribute all with a better understanding of our Caribbean identity wherever we live, eh?
Well, Ronnie, it's absolutely great to be talking to you. I'm so thrilled about that. And I'm actually so thrilled about this month. You know, when I woke up this morning and I realized it was June 1st in Caribbean American Heritage Month, I woke up with a very big smile on my face. In fact, there's also a bird in my house, so I'm not really sure if that's a sign or but
were there three little birds on you? Were there three little birds?
That's just a bird here in the house. It's like I'm in the Caribbean already.
Without a doubt.
But we're just very excited, especially since, you know, Joe Biden, our president, actually issued the proclamation early yesterday, already recognizing the 16th annual Caribbean American Heritage Month. And I think that was very noteworthy, especially since it's the first, actually the second year we've got our Caribbean American Vice President as well. And now for the first time we have the first Caribbean-born White House spokesperson. So we definitely have some firsts this year to celebrate. We've got several in the administration. But, you know, Ronnie, I think as we celebrate this month, we have a lot as Caribbean people. We've come a very far way, but I really do think that we have a far way to go.
Felicia, you know, you rightfully said that. And before we get into the importance and rationale of Caribbean Heritage Month, you care to mention some of the highlights from that proclamation from the president?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got it pulled up right here, so forgive me if I'm going to read this a little bit. But the president actually did mention recognizing the millions of Caribbean Americans who strengthen our country through their vibrant cultures, traditions, languages, and values. He also saluted Caribbean Americans in his administration, like I said, of course, Kamala Harris, but also we forget that the Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, Homeland Security Secretary Alexandro Mayorkas, and of course, Domestic Policy Advisor Susan Rice, they all also have Caribbean heritage. He also recognized the other public servants, like, of course, late Jamaican American, we cannot never forget him, Colin Powell, the late General Colin Powell. And of course, as he stated, and I'm going to read this exactly from the president, every day we see the invaluable contributions Caribbean American communities have made to our country. Our nation has seen the persistence and character of generations of Caribbean Americans who have fought for equality and equity despite continued discrimination and hardship. Caribbean American entrepreneurs, scientists, medical professionals, teachers, artists, police officers, athletes, and contributors in every field have also left a lasting impact on our society. So I think it's very important that we hear, you know, these words and really listen to this, and also remember the history on where we stand, because Caribbean people did not just come to this country in the 1900s. We were here since the 1600s as slaves as well. And that is a fact that many people don't really remember or recognize in the history of these United States.
But listen now, Miss Felicia Irwine, I'm getting goosebumps when you read that thing. That is more than just the customary courtesy of a head of state. That indicates a cherish, a deep respect, which obviously permeates at the highest levels of American society for a Caribbean contribution. When you consider how disparate and how small we are, that is very, very impressive. I'm glad that we can radiate this south of the border, because it lifts our spirits to think that is a justifiable a commendation of Caribbean work and identity. My goodness.
Indeed. And you see, and this is where now we go to the whole situation now.
When we feel good.
When we speak about the importance of Caribbean American Heritage Month, and how do we as a community leverage that? And Felicia, I throw that at you because, I'm not certain that it has permeated to the levels that it should at this point.
Absolutely agree with you, Irwin, and that's where I always have an issue. I mean, when you look especially at the coverage in mainstream media from places like the New York Times, the Washington Post, and you see even when Karine Jean-Pierre was just nominated and became press secretary, that no mention was made of her Caribbean heritage. The same with when Kamala Harris was nominated, and of course, when she became vice president, nothing again really focused on her Caribbean heritage. And then you look at the contrast when there is Hispanic Heritage Month, Asian American Heritage Month, Pride Month, all of these months that get so much more mainstream attention, so much more corporate attention. And then you look at where we are 16 years down the line and you wonder, what exactly have we achieved? And that's the sort of negative that you get, within our communities. Of course, we know it's Caribbean American Heritage Month. We're all excited. We're all proud. And now it's great to see all of these places across the state, like Pennsylvania, Georgia, Rhode Island, even Massachusetts, of course, here in South Florida, New York, always. But we're celebrating it. But where is that economic return to our community? Where is the corporate ads saluting Caribbean American Heritage Month on our media? And that's really where we need to put our focus. And that's where, again, our numbers come in and the economic worth of our community that we can actually show people come in. And that's where the census comes in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So,
go ahead, Ron.
No. I'm wondering, how do you leverage these other things? And there's a contrast I'm picking up. This is not a happy one. The Caribbean immigrants appear to be doing so well in North America. We don't have the same respect coming from the United Kingdom. We are right now. Our thoughts are about people being deported. Now, people are deported from the United States as well, and I'm not against that where there's justifiable legal reason, but it's so significant that you people should be getting together and should be recording these successes and deepening your engagement with the American culture, economy, which in no way derogates from your Caribbean identity, does it?
Absolutely not. And that is exactly what we need to do. It is exactly why I sought to fight for Carib ID and the census identity, because I recognized when I launched my business back there in 2008 that it was important that we have the data. Every corporation we went to, whether it was for sponsorship or ads or to do business with us, asked us, well, where is the data? We don't see the data on Caribbean Americans.
Sure.
We don't even know you guys are present. We know you're part of the Black community. And that's about it. Where is your economic numbers? And that is really what started the fight for Carib ID. And I think, we have to keep going back to that because it is what the Hispanics have used. It is what Asians have used. It is what the gay community used when they start talking about their numbers. They start showing exactly how much they're contributing economically to this country. And we're not able to do that. We're not even able to say how many we are in this country, even though we have been here since the 1600s. And so that is the reality that we face. And that is what we have to do. Yes, it's good to celebrate. It's good to party. It's good to say we throw the biggest parties and the biggest carnivals, and that's what we're known for. We want to also be known for economic impact on this country, and we do that every day in every corner, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as service people, in every facet of this country. But now we have to be able to document it, and we're hoping that this 2020 census results can be able to show us that. That's why it was so important for people to take the census and to fill out the forms. But we have some interesting data that we actually just accessed, Ronnie and Irwin, from the census, and they have told us, according to their estimates in the American Community Survey from 2020, that the numbers have looked up to now 3.5 million. And that, of course, is an estimate. So it's 3.5 million West Indians or Caribbean people who claim Caribbean ancestry. And of course, Jamaicans are leading that number.
Indeed. I know.
We have to take a break. Well, when we come back, we'll discuss the preeminence of the Jamaicans. Right. And also the big question, are we united? It's one thing to be identified. Can we, is there unity between us? Is there that common purpose? Where do we take it from there? All Felicia Persaud and Irwine Clare on the bridge, Irie Jam and the public eye. Soon come. Are we together, Felicia Persaud? We may have the numbers, but I hope that we are not making distinctions and differences as to who is from where and who have this color or that shade and thing.
Well, I think, Ronnie, here in the U.S., it's a little bit easier for us to kind of come together because we all face the same issues. As the president said, we all face discrimination. And we all have the immigration issue that unites us. So a lot of that helps us, I think, here in the U.S. Of course, all politics is still local, and you still have every nationality that goes back to their own, country and responds to that, whether they're Jamaicans or Guyanese or whatever they are. But I feel where the disconnect is the Caribbean governments. When they come here to speak with U.S. officials, is that the diaspora is never included in their agenda. It is really about their own national politics or their own national needs, and sometimes regional, but never about the diaspora. And we're the ones that are voting here to actually keep that line open with the Caribbean and to lobby here to make sure that the U.S. understands the importance of the Caribbean region. So I think that is really where I see the disconnect most of the times happening.
But let me, Ronnie, one of the things too, and I'll throw this to Felicia, and as we advocate and lobby to seek that type of recognition and leverage where we are, it is also important too that Caribbean governments recognize their responsibility in all of this, because there's a sense of feeling at times that Caribbean nations, when they reach into the diaspora for certain skill sets and certain opportunities for work, Caribbean nationals don't seem to be on that list. Felicia, talk to us on that perspective. And one of the big ones that jumps up many a time is our tourism product. And because it is so obvious and it's right in front of us. Talk to us about that aspect of it and how it feeds into the whole mantra of us trying to establish and make sure we're properly leveraging this country.
Yeah, absolutely, Irwin. And it's important because, we're talking about the whole issue as we celebrate the second anniversary of the death of George Floyd. Black Lives Matter. And yet somehow in the Caribbean, our governments don't seem to get that, especially when they award these contracts to all of these Caucasian-owned companies here, especially white-owned agencies in this country that are representing them as a country, especially on the tourism products. And they don't even demand any sort of diversity in the staffing of those agencies. And that really is a big issue, because when you look at corporate America even has to answer and to set aside certain percentage of their spend with minority companies.
Yes.
Our Caribbean governments don't even do that.
Well, no, that is that is a disclosure that we weren't aware of, I don't think. And it is so obvious and necessary. And it doesn't have to be mechanical. It doesn't have to be invidious at all. It is simply to say that, look, our people must play some part in the spend that we are making. And they are likely to be the most effective and the most responsive.
Without a doubt. And again, these are some of the things when we consider.
This is revealing.
It is. And this is where it goes back to because I'd like Felicia to talk to us some more, share with us some more. What is Carib ID and why is it that important? Because you see, it is from the census that many of the things we're talking about here can be realized. And I need that aspect of it to be reiterated. So Felicia, the whole drive for Carib ID, what was that really all about? And is about?
Well, Irwine, it is really about economic empowerment. And that is really what we're about, especially even at Invest Caribbean. We have to recognize that the Caribbean is not just about a party destination or a party people. Yes, we're known all over the world for our culture, our food, our happiness, our joy, everything. Everybody wants to be Caribbean at some point. But what they don't understand is that you also have to invest Caribbean. And that means whether you're in the Caribbean as a small business owner or you're here in the US as a small business owner, you need access to capital. You need to be able to show that you can contribute to this country. And Carib ID really is really the genesis of this, because when we have these numbers, now we can say there are 10,000 Americans who are Caribbean ancestry in Florida, for instance, maybe just in South Florida alone, who are business owners, and they make so much money per month. Here is the data that can now say, okay, now they can get some access to capital. They can get ease of access to the grants that are available. And I think that is what we have to start getting serious about. I mean, if COVID has taught us anything, it is that we have to look beyond tourism and look beyond that industry and start building from the ground up. And that means these talented small entrepreneurs that are all over the Caribbean and its diaspora, how can we bring them together to actually help to build a better region where we're not just dependent on outside help, on remittances, on foreigners coming in? And that's where we are. And that is the state of the Caribbean and the diaspora. So we both have to find that bridge. And it's great we're having this conversation. We're on Bridge FM. And we have to talk about that, because these are the real issues. As we look at the Summit of the Americas that's coming up, not a single Caribbean government has reached out to the diaspora to get the sense of what issues are affecting us here that can be included in their agenda when they go there. What are they going there for? Another photo op to really just talk the same issues? Because I don't really see much changing. I don't see a new agenda post-COVID. I don't see any sort of push. And that's what we have to have. We have to engage. We have so many talented people here in the Caribbean American diaspora. Yet when contracts are issues, RFPs, nobody knows about them. Nobody knows how to actually access these contracts, how to be able to come together. The governments don't know how to be able to access human capital. So what happens is that consultants from Europe and all over, they're the ones getting the contract, and we're left out. Are we independent or what?
Well,
indeed.
Okay. What's the therapy? Is it a matter of political will? Is it a question of recalibrating the role of consulates and embassies? Is it are there new sinews that can be stitched together with non-government agencies, with civic groups? You tell us.
Well, it's a little bit of all of the above. And when it comes to consulates and missions and these ambassadors, I'm sorry, I make no apologies for this. I find it a waste of time and money, because you hardly ever hear from them. Maybe Jamaica is probably the most vocal with their consulates and with their ambassadors. I don't even know who the Guyana ambassador is, and I have no idea what they do exactly. So to me, that is really what they should be doing, but they're not. And how do we do it? We have to now engage, I think, the civic organizations with the business and with everybody who is here to be able to have this sort of conversation and this dialogue and then move it forward, because there is no agenda. The people who claim to be representing us really don't do anything beyond the fluff and the photo op, and the serious issues are just getting thrown away. And that's what we need to do. We don't need Caribbean leaders just coming and going to the White House and meeting with Kamala and having a photo op. We need to be engaged in the conversation to say, look, we need to have grants. We need to have access to capital. We need these small organizations that have been struggling for 20 plus years to be able to get grants so they can continue to do the nonprofit work that they are supposed to be doing. We need access to capital for the small businesses so they can become big businesses. And that is what we need to be chopping away at. And yes, we also have to chop away at corporate America, because now we should have all these ads on the bridge that says, hey, celebrate Caribbean American Heritage Month, McDonald's, Pepsi, whichever. But you don't see that happening, unlike other people. And that's where we have to be more vigilant.
And you see, Ronnie and Felicia, and this is, you mentioned some touch points there. And this is by no means to say that there aren't Caribbean nationals in many of these entities. We also have to call ourselves out, because we do have significant Caribbean presence in several of these corporate 500 companies that they themselves would recognize other Heritage Month celebrations. Where are our Caribbean nationals who are so strategically placed? Are they advocating and lobbying for these type of situations as well? So whereas we point to others who should be doing, we also have a responsibility in this. Felicia Persaud?
Absolutely, Irwin, absolutely. And we have enough people that should be able to get us and move us along. And unfortunately, that is not happening too. So it's like almost, I think when they get inside corporate America, they suddenly become embarrassed that they're Caribbean. And suddenly they're trying to fit in and be something else that they're not. And that's what happens, I think, in a lot of places when you look at it and you actually investigate and you find it, oh, they're born in the Caribbean. Really, it's not a fact that they actually mention upfront in any way. And that is also something, it's almost a stigma, but it goes back to the whole stigma, I guess, of how, especially even African Americans, how they actually react to us and how they treat us. Because we have, Ronnie, now an issue here in this country where there is a group calling for reparations, but it's like reparations for African Americans, but not Caribbean immigrants or Caribbean people of African ancestry. Oh. And my question is always, how do you decide that? Because if we've been here since the 1600s, how do you then tell us that we should not get reparations too? And so, so we have these all of these issues, I think, going around. But like you said, Irwin, we have to stand up very proudly and say we're Caribbean immigrants and continue to hold the flag and, push it forward, even though it's going slowly, but we surely are pushing forward.
And one of the things that we should also highlight here is that there's some dangers here if we do not coalesce and hold on to what we have achieved. Because I saw recently, and again, this is public disclosure, where our Haitian brothers and sisters who have made significant inroads into the political infrastructure and economic infrastructure in this country have now stepped out and are demanding of a Haitian American Heritage Month. Now, that is problematic from the standpoint that we have not been able to hold on to what we have achieved. At the same token, to start having those cracks within the Caribbean community, because yes, Haiti is a part of the Caribbean, can present some challenges going forth. And so we do have some work to do within the Caribbean American community, Ronnie and Felicia.
Hold that thought for me, because it's the work for the way forward. It's the observances of this month that we want to conclude this interview in just a while. Stay tuned. Talking Caribbean identity, Caribbean advancement, talking recording and advancing as we make our mark in the world. Felicia Persaud in the United States, Irwine Clare at Irie Jam in New York, on the bridge with the public eye. So what's going to happen this month? Are there a series of events of connections that you're hoping for, and the therapy for the way forward? I've got the mandate clearly, Felicia, about the Caribbean governments and the time we really have to stop paying lip service to the diaspora or treating you as money bags. There's much more, and it is vitally necessary now that we go there. Lead us.
Absolutely. And that is something that we have to keep pushing this month. We're hoping that the AFUI, the American Foundation of the University of the West Indies, their conversation later this month is always instrumental in actually getting the UWI and the Vice Chancellor there to also get involved in this sort of bridge with the diaspora and the region to kind of push the conversation forward. But I know there are
They're kind of sleepy,
events that are happening.
Yes. And also we'll find too that in various cities you'll have either proclamations by respective cities, recognizing the contribution of Caribbean Americans. One of the things that New York has probably failed miserably from my perspective, and persons like myself are part of that challenge too, is that New York, where is the bastion of Caribbean nationals, where most of us reside, we need to step up our game and be doing more. It cannot just be some window dressing stuff. We need to be doing a lot more here in the tri-state area, and that is something for us to work on going forward. But there are activities taking place, and whether it be in Washington, Atlanta, in South Florida and elsewhere, to recognize this our month where we celebrate Caribbean American Heritage Month. But a lot more is still required.
Can you say more, Felicia, about that hint at 3.5 million? Is that likely to be confirmed? And is that enough of a critical mass to keep things moving? Does that include people up from the non-Anglo-Caribbean, like the Haitians, like the Dominicanos, and so on?
Yeah, absolutely, Ronnie. Again, this is just the estimate from the American Community Survey, which is not the full census as yet. So we're still going to get the full census data, but this is just the latest, and it's an estimate of those, populations that they pick out and look at different cities. And of course, they do include the Haitians. Haitians are actually the second largest group in that amount. But we also did not include the Hispanic West Indies because they are separate, they have their own Hispanic category and they have their own numbers. And so this is mostly focused on West Indians who are non-Hispanics, includes the Dutch and the French West Indies and the British, of course, and just about everybody else in that region.
Do we have a lesson to learn from the Hispanic Caribbean that they as far as I know, they don't seem to divide on national grounds, but see themselves perhaps more cohesive than we do? Is that so?
Yeah, because Ronnie, they recognize the national issues, and it's interesting. I have to say this publicly because it was the Hispanics who actually helped me when I was started Carib ID and really pushed me along. But they also warned me that the Black community is very divisive, and we definitely faced that, because what we faced was a lot of people saying we're about divide and rule, which absolutely had nothing to do with race. It was about counting the Caribbean as a region, and as you know, Ronnie, it's a number of races and cultures and just about everybody in the melting pot. But that is not absolutely a known fact here in the U.S. In fact, many Americans who were born in this country believe that Caribbean people are all Black. So their feeling was we were dividing and ruling. And again, coming back to the Hispanics, they hold it together because they recognize the national issues. Even though they have their own internal infighting, we never see that on a public scale at all, because they do have their own internal.
And in fact, we might say we do have Puerto Rican heritage, Puerto Rican Day March, and we have the Dominican Day March. Yes. So you have those situations, but to come back to our situation though, and this is where it is important to note, and that is the numbers do count. And you must remember that the last census was taken against a backdrop where there was an anti-immigrant sentiment. So when you look at it, Ronnie and Felicia, we could arguably say it is a significant undercount because the Trump administration basically did not want the undocumented numbers in the census. And it had collateral damage because it also impacted the families that were documented, because the immigration piece was a scare for many. So I can only look forward to the next census when we become more, I want to say, mature, Felicia, recognizing the achievements of Carib ID to self identify that these numbers will paint a better picture.
Well,
definitely. And in the meantime, I think we need to also, recognize the people who have paved the way and, of course, made history in this country. And with that in mind, and on News Americas now, we're actually doing that all month. We're going to identify the people in history who have really made an impact. And this dates back to 1660 with one Denmark Vesey, who was actually a slave from the Caribbean and actually came to the U.S. and led a revolt here. It was the first slave revolt in the U.S. So these are the sort of historical stories we're going to be telling on newsamericasnow.com. And we definitely want to keep telling our story, because this is the month for us to remind people that, yes, we have been here and we're here to stay and we're not going anywhere.
Makes us feel so good.
Indeed.
and want to collaborate in every way. Share some of those stories on the bridge with us. We'll be happy to join with you. Felicia, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for the work you're doing. Yes.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Blessings.
And let's not forget, and she says it, she was an undocumented immigrant.
Whoa.
Yep.
Okay. All right. There you go. There you go.
There's good that can come out of it.
All right.
Thanks so
Happy
much.
Thank you very much,
Heritage.
Felicia.
Good then.
Sure. Yes, Ronnie.
Irwine,
Very
that's
interesting.
great news. And
Indeed.
that's very impressive.
Indeed. And we have many. We have many like that.
Well, we invite you. Introduce us to them on the bridge when we meet on a Wednesday.
Without
that's
a doubt.
really good.
Ronnie, before you go, I have to
man.
share some stuff with you.
Please.
It was Memorial Weekend here in New York. And one of the things that is always looked forward to is the largest gathering of any parish of Jamaica for an event.
Yeah.
And it's called it used to be Falmouth Day, but it's now the Trelawney.
Yeah,
Trelawney we come from, and all the folks from Trelawney. And I must tell you that this year, of course, the mayor of Falmouth was there,
Really?
and that is Mayor Gager, yes, and of course Councillor Garth Wilkinson, and there were some over 4,000 persons who claim to be from Trelawney were there. And I must say this, I know Derek's got to be upset, and probably Patrick Beckford. Derek
is the archangel of this one.
I know, but I think Patrick Beckford and Derek will be upset.
Probably.
Ronnie, the last time I went in about 6-7 years ago, I couldn't find no yellow yam, so the next year I had to take some yellow yam from St. Ann up to this event. Can you believe that, Ronnie?
We stop this inter-parish rivalry, you see. Just because you come from St. Ann, yes, and you mugs up yourself with the Trelawney people. But
it's 42 years, and I must say this, kudos to them, because even the police department upstate New York, where they have said it has been an incident-free. It's one of those situations where
we know how to be
it's
opportunistic.
Without a doubt.
Yeah,
And I also want to take this opportunity to run that last week, two issues that jumps out at us, a good and a bad story. We lost a TSA agent of Jamaican parentage.
What's a TSA
he was
agent?
killed. That's it. The
Transport.
Yes, Transport Service Agency. Yes, where you go when you check in at the airport, right? And he has been one of the long-serving members there. He was shot and killed over the weekend.
Man.
A good story, however, is that we reported right here in Irie Jam. It was the missing of a young man, Mr. Burrell, 20 years old, who was missing, and it was just one of those situations, a parent's nightmare. We're glad to say, Ronnie, that the young man was found. And,
excellent.
What it does say too is that in the story that we'll be working on more here on Irie Jam, it's about some of the collateral damages out of COVID-19, the impact of mental health, especially in our young people.
Oh, that was a feature connected with this.
And I think it's something that the parents, I know they'll be strong advocates on this, because, it is something that, is impacting our community, and we need to have more information be made on this. And I just want to continue to impress on our families and friends who are
the
journeying to
services
Jamaica.
available, though?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And we're going to be championing for more.
Yes.
You know, and one of the things I also want to remind our listeners, because I know that from all walks of life through the diaspora, that people will be transcending on Jamaica this holiday season, and to remind our folks that it is important not to be cavalier in our activities, and to remember that COVID is still alive and well.
Well, you know, we began the program before you joined us today with reference to the two activities of the United States in respect of Jamaica. One is to say, look, we have to bring you up a notch, a dangerous notch, because of the prevalence of COVID. And frankly, Irwine, we have to take responsibility for that, because if only 25% of us are prepared to be vaccinated, and other people say, no, that makes you vulnerable and makes me vulnerable if I come near you, I don't have any patience with that. We have to fix that ourselves. We need encouragement from sources like yours. As far as the other downgrade is concerned, which says the crime and the violence is so bad you can't go anywhere except Portland and Manchester virtually.
That is sad.
And that's an overreach, you know, sir.
Yes, it is. It is. And because when you look at it, the same standards that the United States used to judge nations like ours, if they're to use them against us, then we be telling ourselves here from the United States, don't come here either. Don't go to Brooklyn. Don't go to the Bronx.
This is it. I said that.
Right.
Donkey said the road no level, no? You know.
Yeah, but donkey. When last you saw donkey? When last you saw donkey?
Yes. with the price of gas going up now.
We might see donkey again.
We'll see donkey and hamper again.
Indeed.
We have to take serious thing.
I know. But again, though, we want to continue to impress on our nation, our brothers and sisters back at home. That I saw recent numbers came out again that the remittance coming out of North America, because North America, the United States, contributes some 70% of the remittance to Jamaica, was up 0.3% or 0.03% more than last year this time. That is good news. That continues to tell you about the importance of the Jamaican diaspora.
Well, this is it, and this is why it's really embarrassing when we hear Felicia Persaud speak about the neglect, the overlooking of Caribbean government officials in respect of culturing, benefiting, reciprocally advancing the interests of our nations with the diaspora, who are dying to help us, and in fact are doing so. They're propping us up now and are likely to be called upon to do even more, despite inflation in your market, which is ravaging your disposable income as much as any of us.
Without a doubt.
So
we're running
these things.
I know. We're gonna call it there.
Leaving you for the week, and thanks so much for the connection.
Always. Until next week.
Much obliged. Good.
Sure.
And that's it for the Public Eye.
And I was running Thwaites there,
linking us with Irwine Clare at Irie Jam in New York. Thanking Dr. Leachim Semaj of Above and Beyond, and Felicia Persaud, Caribbean-US Advocate, for being our guest today. We inform you, we entertain you, and we meet you on the bridge. 99 FM and Irie Jam Radio. That's the whole purpose of this program. Thanks to LaFane Wigan and Richie Rainford, Jeffrey Brown, and the entire production team at the Bridge 99 FM and the Irie Jam family. We are one to the world. Have a good afternoon. Nikki Z comes up with a crossover now. We'll be back next Wednesday. Live Spear, God willing, 11 o'clock for the Public Eye and the Open Mind on the Bridge. Till then, take care.